Did- and guys, we're live. This is going to be a YouTube live, and this is your favorite segment, straight up. I mean, now we've done 326 episodes, and I mean, you guys have spoken. We have over 1,000 listens, I think, on 10 different Coffee with Cage episodes. So it's clear that you guys love these, and I think part of that is because you get to ask your question specific to what's going on at the time, and we get to provide value, or Cage gets to provide value. I chime in every now and again. I'll be honest. I was watching the Champions League final here, so I didn't prepare any of the questions in that little banner underneath. Cage, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's cool. Whatever. I don't get to
okay
see them. I don't get to really see them anyway. So, I don't see the YouTube live. So if we're live, I don't get the benefit of this fun, man, because we're recording this so that we can publish it later, which, by the way, everybody loves because we'll say your name when we ask your question. And then, if we ask your question, that's cool. You're a celebrity. You get to play it back for your whole family, your friends, your enemies. I don't get to say that anymore.
People love that. People love that.
Man.
No, I added that back in, Cage.
All right, good.
I don't know if you know I added that back in.
Yeah.
How are you feeling
awesome.
today?
I'm
it's
good.
a weekend. It's a Memorial Day weekend. It's the start of summer on the East Coast. What's going on over there?
The hobby is it's I love it, man. It's a rainy day, but it doesn't make a difference. There's I'm looking forward to a card show tomorrow in Plainview, Long Island. If anybody's going to that, just DM me. I'll try to meet up with you. I'll probably go early. Open some packs. Obviously, you saw my Cardboard Relevant yesterday. We opened a bad box and then followed it up with like an awesome box. I'll show everybody in case you didn't see it. Ian who pulls fire. Ian pulled this Trevor Lawrence auto ticket out of 16. Pretty sweet. Nice fire card.
Cage, let's add some value to people here. What are you going to do with that card? Right now, PSA's closed. HGA, you got to get in the queue. What are you going to do? Talk us through your thought process.
So it's amazing, right? Because it's so much more of a thought process than it ever has been, right? So I'll tell you, the first thing I'm thinking about doing is bringing it to the show tomorrow, right? Bringing live to a show. A couple people have messaged me. One guy messaged me who has a store and wants to trade me wax for it. I'm not sending it. I'm not waiting for PSA. I'm not going to send it into a grading company at all because even the quickest turnaround is not going to matter. My personal take on it is it will go one of two ways. I will move it in some form of a trade or online deal quickly because it's a college draft picks card, right? It's not a his uniform. So even though it's limited, it's a cool card now, and the cracked ice out of 20 something is selling for between $1,000 and $2,000. This is even less.
14 and a 16 serial number.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The other thing is, Ian pulled it. And I have a long track record of selling all the good stuff that he pulls and not telling him. So maybe I'll just let him keep it. The only thing is, I could tell he's already thinking about it because this is what's fun about doing the card stuff. Do it with the kids, do it with somebody, right? So he says to me this morning, he goes, "Do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good season this year? He is playing for Jacksonville, and that is a tough place to play quarterback." I mean, come on now, out of nowhere, And I'm like, I have to tell him. We started talking about Tim Tebow as tight end. I mean, like having this, he's 7, So, that'll all go into what we do with the card. I didn't tell him that somebody offered us wax because he'll just take it. It doesn't matter what it is. He just wants to rip stuff. He'll just take. You want to give him a Mosaic blaster for it? It's fine. It's done. It's a deal.
Is he getting to the age where he can make his own decisions, or he's still a little bit young?
Soon. I mean, listen. We'll go to the card with something like that. It's difficult because there's no real comps, right? So it's tough for him to make his decision on that. I would have a hard time making a decision on it. But with his own stuff, like we'll go to the show tomorrow. He'll have a backpack, and he'll have 2 PSA return boxes, like 40 cards that he'll bring, and he'll go off in the corner, and there'll be people look, hey, what do you got there? And he'll make deals. He trades for Pokemon cards. He trades, and he's got legit stuff. He traded a Zion Optic PSA 10 for some Pokemon cards the last show we went to. From it's his own collection. It's fun stuff. So
right.
Yeah, man. So
let's get into the show.
I'm doing good.
Let's get into.
I'll give you a shout out, right? So I hope I feel awake enough, right? Because you asked me what I'm doing, and I was up late last night, up after midnight our time, because Australia is different time zones. I think it's actually different seasons, right? So I mean, I jump on, and these guys will have their winter hats on the show. So I put a winter hat on. It was kind of silly. Normally, I got this, fancy pants hair on. I got my winter hat on. It was a lot of fun. I got to jump on this, it's amazing the global hobby. All the people going into it. There's a show in Sydney and just hundreds of people online waiting to get into a card show in Sydney. Like, it's never been like that. It's never been that far reaching. So it was cool to join double coverage. If you guys aren't checking those out, check them out as well. And just chop it up a little bit for about an hour last night. So yeah, there's where I am.
You're an international sensation, Cage, and
international man of mystery.
Guys, we gotta say thank you. I mean, we're over 500 subscribers here on YouTube. Like, we just go live and people already watch, people join in. So thank you guys for that. We're at thousands of listens on Spotify and Apple. We're approaching 6,000 followers on Instagram, and it's been 10 months. And none of it straight up would have been possible without you guys, your support, your feedback, you kind of guiding us and contributing to what we're doing. So just a big shout out, big shout out for everything you guys do to support us. It means the world to us. And it's never more evident than when we do this Coffee with Cage and you guys submit your questions. So,
dude, I gotta tell you,
you're holding. Is there a lot of background noise?
I want to go in the pool. I mean, I want to dive in that pool.
Is it bad?
No, it's cool, man.
I wonder what Cardboard's going to say about our sound issues now.
It adds some flavor. I mean, listen, we have audio issues. No matter what you do in the audio, it can't be as bad as what I do, I guess. So, but yeah, man, it sounds like whatever it is, people are having fun over there. It's great. Would you rather have a steak or would you rather have a seasoned steak? You're adding some seasoning to it. It's all adding to the flavor of the podcast. I love it, man. I love it.
Cage, Okra King 2000. In your opinion, what soccer boxes hold value and what would you be buying?
Oof. All right. So it's funny. Soccer boxes. That was a huge wake-up call for me, man, because I bought that Bundesliga Chrome boxes last year. I was selling them for, $150. And, I looked the other day. I sold them to people for $150 a box. And I looked the other day, and they're on blowout. They're on blowout for $5,000 a box, which was just a huge eye-opener. I mean, I guess they don't sell for that, really. That's just a blowout price. But still, they're thousands of dollars per box because it has rookies of Haaland in it. Gio Reyna is in those. So that might already be out of your price range. So I got to tell you, here's my thing on soccer. I noticed this year's Bundesliga Chrome came out, and it was huge. People were $500-$600 a box. But now that it's been out for about a week, I've seen the prices come down into the 300s, which is a reasonable price for a box of Chrome soccer. You're getting hits in there, you're getting good stuff. I've sold a couple of them to friends here from our Instagram group, and they were showing off their Haaland golds and hits. So here's my take on soccer, and I could be very wrong here, but I'm probably a good person to ask about soccer because I don't fall in love with it. I don't have like the guy I love. There's no Devontae Graham in soccer, right? I mean, there are people who love soccer. Here's my thing. I have been around people who love soccer and know soccer. I've been in groups where like guys are like, "Oh yeah, what a great look at that chance! Look at that set play they just had, and De Bruyne, and look at Pulisic, the first American." But you know what's funny about it, right? So what's funny about it is when I noticed
first American to play in the Champions League final, guys. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. But what I've noticed about it is in the last 2 years, as soccer has become this huge thing in the hobby that people are trying to pump up, every month there's a new name. Every month. And it's a name I didn't hear the month before, right? It's, this guy's the next big thing. Oh, it's Mbappe. Oh, it's Mason Greenwood. Oh, it's Havertz. Oh, it's Haaland. Oh, it's Reyna was hot for like 2 seconds. And Pulisic was hot. And then, and sure, there are the GOATs that are out there, right? But you know what I've noticed, right, is that since it's new all the time, I'd buy a box like that the one that just came out, your Bundesliga Chrome, right? Because it's cheaper. It's significantly cheaper than what was in the past. And I'll bet you in a month or two, someone's playing, and they're like, wow, his rookie's in there. Or in 6 months, his rookie's in there. And people are looking for that card, and you don't have to buy it for thousands of dollars. Plus, from what I've seen, Dortmund, they know what they're doing, right? They just generate like the young talent. It just seems to be they find them, they generate them. It's like the Warriors front office, right? Like they just know what they're doing.
It's a business model in soccer because if you find the young talent, you take chances. You buy a young talent for $5 million, you sell it for $50 million. They don't have to win Champions League or all that. They make their money just recruiting and creating talent. So
that's what I'd be looking at now, especially because they've come down significantly in the week since release on the secondary market. I grab a couple boxes of those. I have a few myself. I'll keep sealed.
Okay, next question. My buddy Taylor Brophy wants to know. You recommended a Kawhi PSA 9 for me, and he has been just destroyed by Luka in the playoffs. What's going on?
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, Kawhi was shot like 90% from the field yesterday. I mean, I think he missed his first shot in the first half with like a minute left in the game, and with a minute left in the half, and it was like a 3-pointer, crazy one. I think it was like 8 for his first 8. Kawhi has looked okay in this series, if not very good in this series. Point total wise, matching Luka or coming close to it. Here's the cool thing about Kawhi and why he's a good investment, why he's still a good investment. And if the card has gone down a little since you bought it, maybe double up and dollar cost average would be my thing, because there really isn't that much of a downside. There really isn't much of a downside to Kawhi, right? Because he's already won twice. He's still pretty young, right? He's already won twice. He's won the MVP in the finals twice. And if it so happens that this is not the year for them and they get knocked out in the first round, well, that's a team that's probably going to get blown up, right? And he can opt out of his contract, right? He's allowed to opt out this year. So that's one of those cards where, sure, it maybe there is some short-term 10, 15, 20% pain if it doesn't go your way in the playoffs. But maybe he signs with the Knicks. Maybe he signs and goes and joins somebody else who also gets an early exit. Maybe Luka exits early the next round. He beats the Clippers, but then it gets out the next round. Maybe the Bucks, as good as they look this round, maybe they don't do it in the next one. Maybe he teams up with somebody, a Giannis or a Luka, or I don't know. It doesn't. What's funny about it? It doesn't matter who it is, because once he teams up with somebody, the day that happens, boom, the card's going to explode. The card's will be back more than whatever it is that you just paid for it. So that's what you got to look at with cards like that. A guy who's already done, he's already won championships. So there's already a floor kind of set in there. And while that floor now, it might be slightly less than what you paid for it, the many different ways for that card to increase in value, I like it. You want to sell it to me? I'll buy it.
What's up, Corey? So Corey said he just watched the Chelsea Champions League final. Chelsea win the Champions League final, and he's going to a card show Monday. Where at, Corey? You're going to one tomorrow, right, Cage?
Yeah, tomorrow. Yep.
Where's the card show?
If it's anywhere near me, let's go. I'll meet you up. As long as it's
Cage, what's your strategy when you're going to a card show? What are you looking to do? Is Ian's coming with you, right? What's up, Corey?
Of course.
Thank you for the comment.
Yeah. So my card show, happy Memorial Day weekend, Nick. Yeah, and you know what my strategy is? I know I have to bring some money to buy some wax that's going to be overpriced because I'm bringing my son with me. So that's first and foremost. Like, I know I'm going to overpay for something because we can't just go to the show and not rip something. So there'll be something. Indiana, that might be a tough one for me to make on Monday. I'm nowhere near Indiana, but maybe Conrad. Maybe we can send Conrad some money and send him out to the card show. What do you think? Conrad making an appearance. You think that's funny? Yeah, I think that's funny. So here's the thing: like the card shows that I go to, it's a lot of the same guys, a lot of the same dealers and stuff like that. Although it's switching up. This particular show I'm going to tomorrow, one of our listeners, Coach Herrera, I think he's got a table for the next one in August. He's moving out here. He's going to coach St. John's basketball soon. Shout out, Coach. Can't make it to this one because I think he's still moving, but it's nice to see some new blood. I'll tell you the real goal here on something like this is I'll take a look at the cards. I'll buy some supplies. I'll take a look at what people have on their table. I would like to see how people are pricing things, from one show to the next, see whether or not they're coming down with the market. But this particular show I'm going to, small-ish show, it's the same one where last time kind of the new breed of collectors kind of congregate in the back. There is no defined trade room. And that, everybody's got their cases and everybody's got their, PSA, bricks in the back making deals and laughing because there's more deals going on there than there are, and then there are being made out on the table. I think the last time I went there, I moved a Mariano rookie. I brought a Mbappe with me. That got a lot of interest, but I don't think I actually moved it. Just a PSA 10 base rookie. So I'll bring some cards and we'll see.
A few attention grabbers, huh?
Yeah.
Some cards that grab the attention. Okay.
Yep.
I got a really good question for you. Ready?
Yep.
Joe LeConte Payne asks, if you had to choose one path, would you rather be a long-term investor or a short-term flipper, and why? Second part of the question, what percentage of your portfolio is long-term versus short?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really cool question. It's fun, right? Because it'll allow me to cheat and just say both on the first answer, right? Because I think you kind of have to be both. right? If you tell me I have to choose one path, it's going to be long-term investor because while short-term flipper is fun, you make a little quick money, it would mean you're out of the hobby. Unless what you're saying is many short-term flips, I can tell you the path that I choose is a little bit of both, right? I'm constantly looking for short-term value where somebody is selling too cheap and I can move, in a week, in a month, in 2 months, buy, as the season ends and then sell before the next season ends. I think there's a lot of moves to be made there, and that money can then be used to be that long-term investor as well. It's harder to just be a long-term investor in the hobby for somebody like me. I need a little more excitement. You know what I mean? I'd rather bet on each game, each quarter, each half, than take a bet that this team is going to win this many games for the season. You know what I mean? That's like a long-term play. You could do them both, but I need that. I need a little more.
You need
excitement
You need the action short-term to keep
man.
engaged to stay long-term.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. What percentage of my portfolio is long-term versus short? I would say right now, 80% of my portfolio is long-term. And the other 20% are things that I have no intention of keeping beyond the next couple of months. And that 20% is constantly churning. It's stuff that I'm getting back from grading that I'm just flipping. It's stuff that I'm getting when I break boxes. It's cards that I'm buying on eBay with the intent of either, grading and flipping or holding and flipping. Same thing with Star Stock. I mean, we count that in the portfolio too. I think my March 31st beat the deadline. A whole bunch of baseball cards just got scanned in this past week. So
into Star Stock?
Yeah, selling a lot of baseball rookies in there.
I'll tell you. You know what's interesting about Star Stock? I'm curious to see what's going to happen to the platform when we have another boom cycle. Star Stock's only been in existence when there's been down cycles. And that's really an interesting point because let's say we see another boom cycle, kind of like we saw with Top Shot or we saw in the bubble. I think it's going to be really interesting to judge the platform then. Do you know what I'm saying with that? Because
100%.
we've only seen it when markets have been going down.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, look, you would think that there would be an opportunity to see some form of a boom in it because it has kind of like, at least the way I look at it, it's setting up something as the anti-grading. They're doing their own grade. You don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about the returns. You don't have to worry about the logins, the times, all that fun stuff. It's there. It's already kind of got that initial grade to it. And, you want to get in and sell, you get in and you sell. You want to get in and you move, you get in and you move. So yes, it would be nice to see, that liquidity come to play and see whether or not what you and I both think is going to happen actually happens. And that is on-field performance impacts the card. Right, it's sort of like stocks. That's what Star Stock's trying to set up. Right, the most liquid version of the asset of the player. Right, and then if they have a good game, like Tatum stuff is up today from where it was yesterday, and that makes sense. Right, people are looking, they're logging in and buying some Tatum stuff after he scored 50 points. Right, if he comes up the next day and scores 12 points in a net blowout, the cards will probably go down. It's the same type of thing. That's what that's the liquidity that Star Stock's trying to set up. And yeah, I think it'll be even more so in more of a bull market.
Mike, great question. Quick question here, Cage. He's a question for Andrew. With all the crazy young talent in the NBA, I don't know what's so funny about that. Shocking that it's shocking to Cage that people would ask me questions.
No, I read the question. So I'm laughing at the question.
Well, I'll read it for our audio listeners. Question for Ant. This guy's killing my audio again. With all the crazy young talent in the NBA showing out in the playoffs, do we still believe MJ is going to be an MVP? Did you pick up a hint of sarcasm to this question? Is that why you're laughing?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it is a valid question in that he's not saying MPJ is bad. Wow, he's bleeding. Austin Rivers.
Who's bleeding?
Austin Rivers. He just picked up his shorts. He's bleeding from his hip. It's very weird. Very, very weird. I'm watching the game over here, Portland against Denver. And Michael Porter Jr. I think he's in the game. I think Michael Porter Jr. is in the game. He's in. I just don't really see him doing anything.
Cage is a question hijacker. That's
what.
Well,
no, please.
Look at Austin Rivers' hip. It is bleeding.
It's bleeding.
No, Mike, it's a great question. MPJ reminds me of a young Durant. I think he's a little bit less of a killer instinct than Durant, but I think he has a lot of the same potential that Kevin Durant does. What is hilarious about that?
I mean, Precious Achua reminds me of a Jordan.
What?
Michael Jordan. I mean, and Facundo Campazzo over here. He reminds me of like the next Chris Paul. Are you serious? Kevin Durant? Why? Because he's tall? I mean, what else does he have? What is Kevin Durant? Really?
It's not just because he's tall, dude. Do you watch Michael Porter Jr. play?
I'm watching him right now.
He can catch fire. He catches fire. He's a great 3-point shooter. He's great off the dribble. He's got to work on his game, but the kid's 21 years old.
Even when he was young, even when Durant came out there.
I don't understand what's so laughable.
I'll tell you. Even when Durant came out of Texas, right? And he came out and people were like, all right, let's watch him play. He never really disappeared. Like, he always had a game. He always had, he always got his points. He always got his numbers, and yeah, he had a great team, the Sonics team was good. The, Thunder team was good. He's always seemed to have a good team around him, but, he's one of those guys that you have to put in a different level. It's tough to compare anyone to him because he, no matter what, he goes out and gets his. And Michael Porter Jr., he's only 21. I get it, and maybe this will change. But what I've seen from him, yeah, flashes, sure. Are there days he looks like he could be Kevin Durant? Sure. But remember, Devontae Graham scored 40 points once too, right? I always come back to him because that's my guy. But Durant never scored 4. He never disappeared for a half of a game. And Michael Porter Jr. has all of the talent around him he would need to really succeed because he's tall. He should be able to take advantage of everybody else because he doesn't have to get the rebounds, right? Tall. No, but I'm telling you, he has a size advantage, but he doesn't have to be the tallest guy out there. He doesn't have to be the rebounder, right? So he got the Joker out there, right? So obviously the Joker's doing the dirty work on the inside, where in a lot of other teams, like look at the team they're playing against right now. I mean, Nurkic. I mean, he's like the Covington guy's got to go get rebounds, right? I mean, they don't have to use him in a way where he doesn't have to be used. He can just be offense. He can go out there and score. And for some reason, he gets lost in the game. And maybe it's because he's young. That's fine, but it seems to happen more often than it doesn't.
You're not wrong, but that's such a ridiculous reason. He can't be an MVP because his first full season in the NBA, he's getting lost in the game. Dude,
this is his third partial season. I've heard it's his first full season in the NBA, but he played. He is in the same draft class. He's the same rookie class as Luka and Trey, right? So he
was injured that year.
Oh, I know he was injured. Well, that helps his argument for being.
Imagine when Embiid came into the league and you wrote him off after the first 3 seasons when he was always injured, and all someone said was he has the talent to be a potential MVP. That's all we're saying. Like Embiid proved. He has the talent to be a potential MVP. I think he lacks some intangibles that Durant does, but I think Michael Porter Jr. has the talent to be a future MVP. I think you're going to see a season from him where he puts up 31 points a game, 32 points a game. One season.
Remember the question.
Durant has done that for 10 seasons. That's a different game. So I'm not saying he's as good as Durant. I'm saying he can be an MVP like Durant was.
So for the last, 1 year. I mean, you have LeBron in there, obviously, right, all the time. But I think what the question is that we have now got this glut of talent coming in. These young kids, all this talent, the Lukas, right, the Zions. Not to mention, you still have Durant in the league. You have all these people, right? You have so many people. To say that MPJ is going to be an MVP, means that there's going to be a year where he's better than all of these talents. Right, going to be an MVP. So for him to win an MVP, it means he's going to take an MVP.
Steve Nash won an MVP, and was he better than Kobe?
That year, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Not everyone has to freak out. MVP. Oh my God, freaking out! Like let me go crazy.
To be an MVP means you are an elite player. And
for one season,
me, man. This is not LeBron. This is not Fugazi stuff. Michael Porter Jr. is, if he becomes half the player that people think he is, he should consider himself lucky.
You're a moron. Hoops and cards.
Okay, I'm watching him play.
Stop looking at Austin. You're looking at Austin Rivers' hip.
Yeah, well,
I'm listening to girls swim.
By the way, as we
My
talk
friends
about
are
this,
swimming in the pool, and you're looking at Austin Rivers' hips.
Portland's abusing this team. They're abusing the Nuggets. And Michael Porter Jr., you look at Casper, the ghost out there. No, Casper would be who? Aaron Gordon.
But last game was the complete opposite. The Nuggets abused the Trailblazers last game. It's going to be that kind of series. It's going to be a 7-game series. It's exciting. There are two teams that are really evenly matched. It's a great series.
Maybe the MVP shows up. Michael Porter Jr. Maybe he'll show up.
Can I get you back? Can you stop looking at Austin Rivers' jock strap and answer the question?
Yes.
Hoops and Cards asks, when is the best time to buy into Zion again? Now or November? Not sure why November. I guess he means when next season starts. I would actually say before next season, but go ahead, Cage.
I wouldn't wait till November. I definitely wouldn't wait till November. Dude,
hey, Ian, are you
making a little bit of noise?
Shoot you with a Nerf gun?
Make a little noise. So no, I would wait until a couple weeks after the season because this whole the seasonal stuff is kind of everybody's looking for that off-season stuff. I'd be looking at Zion now. I'm looking at Zion immediately because people are gonna as soon as that let me get on the Zion off season. People aren't looking at his cards now, so now the next couple weeks you name it because you'll start to see you'll start to see that his cards people will start to grab him again. But which one do you grab? What are you gonna grab? I ask you.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I would have grabbed Zion.
You wouldn't grab Zion
because his prism is too high pop and his RPAs haven't come down.
You'd grab some Michael Porter Jr. with his 3 points and 2 turnovers so far today in the second half.
I think you're the worst though, cancel culture. You get stuck on a point like it's like a slug.
No, so this is the thing, right? So
because I think Michael Porter Jr. can be good doesn't mean I'm saying put all of your chips into Michael Porter Jr. cards.
The fact that we have to talk about Michael Porter Jr. to me is. I mean,
what's your hate for him?
Because people are trying to fake people out with him. The fact that people legitimately think that he could potentially be an MVP is sad to me. It's sad.
You haven't watched him play. You haven't watched a ton of his games.
Dude, I've watched him play. I have the NBA pass, man. I watched them play. I watched this Joker. I didn't believe in Joker. In the first half of the season as a potential MVP. I watched him. His game is
incredible.
He's not just a big guy, He's talented. He's a good player. He doesn't look good today either. I guess that.
Have you seen MPJ spot up from 3?
Yes.
You see, he's a good shooter, right?
There are moments where.
Well, hold up. He's a good shooter, right?
Yes. Yeah.
He finishes at the rim pretty well.
Against substandard defenders, yes. He succumbs to the pressure of better defenders. He disappears when the person who he's playing is a legitimate defender, right? He does not up his game.
He has a good frame, right?
I've never really looked at his frame.
You don't know what that means? So LeBron has a good frame. So his body will withstand the NBA. He's a strong guy. Michael Porter Jr. looks like he could become a strong guy. He's long, but
could he become a strong guy? Sure. I mean, he looks a little lanky presently. He looks a little like he should put something on his frame, really.
Right, but he's 22. So by 25, if he has work ethic and he has the current talent, there's a tremendous amount of upside. The guy can shoot. The guy can get to the rim. He's quick. I don't know what.
You kind of everything you're saying applies to Bol too.
All right, and this isn't going to be a Michael Porter Jr. In 2031. How are we describing his career?
Yes.
And then Mike said in 2031, MPJ's out of the league. Maybe we'll see.
Thank you, Mike. You're 100%.
I would. Long Shot Cards asks, is there a situation where a 9 is a better buy than a 10? If so, how do you determine to buy a 9 over a 10? Thanks for all you guys do. Can I tell a quick story about?
Yeah, please. That's a great question.
So my buddy, who's here with me in Mexico, is taking a sabbatical. College friend, he wants to get in the game, and he was thinking, what card should I buy? And we were talking about a Kawhi Prism 2012, whether that's a PSA 10 or a PSA 9. And the PSA 9 was about 500, 550. The PSA 10 was about 2,000. And our logic was for someone like this who wanted to come in, have some fun, see if there was some potential to flip it. And a PSA 9 could actually go from 500 or 550 to 1,000 quicker than a PSA 10 can go from 2,000 to 4,000. So percent return for someone like this who's new in the hobby, they have to shell out less cash with more upside, more short-term upside. He went with the 9. So that's the Kawhi Prism PSA 9 from 2012. That was one example. Cage, let's rock with yours because that's a great question.
Yeah, so I mean that's exactly the right time to do it, right? When you have somebody who, who is looking to get into it, is looking to invest some money and not be, wow, I got to jump on the PSA 10, the most expensive card, so that's perfect. But even folks who are looking for, I have $1,000 or I have $2,000, where should I go? Should I buy 110 or X9s, right? What you'll see is when this will work is if you do a little bit of research on it, right? Because the 10s and the 9s, they move together, but not always in unison, right? Because when people are trying to invest in somebody, normally they're going to try to buy the 10 right off the bat, unless the 10 is way too expensive, right? So here's when you do it, right? Let's just say the card is 2 to 1. Let's just say the PSA 10 is $1,000, the 9 is $500, right? But the player hasn't really performed so well, and the 10 has gone down to 800, and you notice that the 9 is 300, right? So now it's not a 2 to 1 ratio. Right? People just haven't bought the 9. People are selling the 9. People are looking to get out on the 9. Now, historically, that was a 2 to 1 ratio for the 10 to 9, right? That 9 has now become more of a bargain because you can get almost 3 of them for the price of 1 instead of 2. So that's the kind of stuff that you're going to do. I mean, it really, you should also be looking, in addition to that price comparison, the population on these things as well. I wouldn't be trying to get something where there's a ton of 9s and not that many 10s. I'd be looking for something where there's not that many of either of them. If we're talking about like a Topps Chrome baseball or a Prism guy who is not from these most recent years, that's another thing, right? So like this 9 versus 10, I wouldn't do it with any of the modern Prism base cards. Right, because those 9s, people are getting them back and they're just dumping them for whatever they get for them. It's going to be very hard for that to go up in value. But somebody like, let's say you wanted to get into Giannis, right? And Giannis just had the sweep, and Giannis's 10s and 9s have been beat up. But for the last week or so, the 10s are starting to move up, but the 9s haven't yet, right? There may be a window right now for this first week where the 9s haven't. We'll go back to like Jeremy Padawer, the first time we had him on, that whole rubber band effect, right? Where when the 10 starts to move up and the 10 becomes out of people's price range, eventually it'll pull that 9 up with it, but it doesn't happen automatically. There's no tension yet. It's got to pull a little and then the 9 snaps up with it. That's going on right now with the Giannis Prism from 2013. There's a time where you potentially have the ability to buy 9s and see more returns on the 9 than the 10 if you missed out on the 10 before it started moving up this week. That makes sense?
Select courtside is when I look at 9s all the time. They're it's such a cheaper price point to get in, and often it has as much or more upside on some of the really lower pop cards. So like Trey, select courtside, silver was one I was looking at, for example. Imbum Lee, nice to meet you, Imbum.
Hey, Imbum.
Curry versus Luka versus Durant value in 10 years. I don't think it's a fair question because they all have different pops. I think you should ask what's the market cap for all 3 of those, because Luka, his Prism PSA 10 is going to be significantly cheaper than Durant Topps Chrome. That's just the way it is. But Kate, any take on this?
Yeah, so I would imagine the market cap for Luka is probably going to be significantly higher than both of those guys in 10 years, only because I don't think Curry and Durant are playing anymore in 10 years, but I don't think they've gotten yet into the Hall of Fame, So I think that 10-year mark will be, they're both out of the league. They're both out of sight, out of mind. They've cemented their legacies as, top 15 players of all time, top 20 players of all time. And their cards will be much safer. But Luka will be playing. Luka will be, probably a little past his prime. But, if Luka has done what people are expecting him, he has an MVP in there, maybe more than one. He's got some championships in there, maybe more than one. and people are buying his cards at that point in time. So I would say Luka in 10 years. Now, you want an honest take on not just the market cap of those guys, but like where they fall. Right now, without any change to lineup, team, you name it, Luka is not going to be in the same category as them. I love Luka. I think he's fantastic. I think he's a great player. I think he fills the stat sheet. But unless he goes somewhere or the team brings somebody else in to build around him, and this is, you could say the same thing for Jordan with the Bulls as they were building that team up, Curry as they built the team up around him. So it's the same thing. There's no indictment on Luka. It's just that Curry and Durant at the time of the career that Luka's at now, they were not what Luka was, right? They were great players. They're not putting up the stats that he was putting up. But what happened to both of those players is they won championships. Teams built around them, or they went to teams, right? Well, Durant's case, they went to a team that was already a champion, and he won his championship. But that is the missing piece for him. And obviously, some MVPs would be nice too. So Luka is a little more mysterious. I mean, if I were putting my money right now in those three guys, and you asked me, hey, here's a pie chart, you're gonna give me $100,000. What am I putting where? I'm a little risk averse. I probably would do like I'm not a huge Durant fan, but I probably would do like 40% Curry, because I think there's still some upside with him. I think that team's going to be awesome next year, and I think you could still see some real upside with him, but the downside is real limited. Probably 30 or 35 Durant and another 30 or 25 Luka. Luka would be the smallest one of that bunch because he has the most potential for downside, believe it or not. He's got huge potential for upside. Huge. If he does what everybody thinks he's going to do. But he's not going to win any MVPs because Michael Porter Jr. is going to win them all.
I haven't asked you this question. Take a sip of soda.
By the way, hobby update. We saw you. Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks.
What's up, guys? What's up, guys? Clench your throat. Get a little soda in you. This is a good question. Dennis Patrick Zender asks, how do you see Golden's reality TV show affecting the hobby? Do you think it will bring more hands to the table? My thought is new blood wouldn't be chasing the premium cards that will likely be showcased on the show, but more attainable. Cage. It's a great question, Dennis.
So, Dennis, I've got a lot of messages telling me that I should be sending a tape over to Golden, right? And that I should get on his TV show. But I don't think I'm going to do it. Here's the top level answer. You ready? It's a good thing. How do I think it affects the hobby? Anything that shines a favorable light on what we're doing, and Ken's not going to shine a negative light producing a television show. Anything that shines a favorable light on what we're doing is good for the hobby overall. Anytime my cousin Larry or my Aunt Josephine or, a coworker sends me a text that says, baseball cards are having a revolution in 2021. Baseball cards set new records. Look at this sale price for this card. And these are people who previously would be like, you're the idiot in the family who was putting their money into baseball cards. Anytime you get one of those and it adds legitimacy to this as an alternate asset class, and people start to look at it that way, and institutional money see those things and start to look at it that way, that's a good thing for the hobby. It's a good thing for all the cards. It counterbalances some of the other silliness that's going on in the hobby that will detract from it, from grading, PSA being closed, and market manipulation, and all the other lunacy that we have there. But putting a TV show out there like that, it's a good thing. However it is, I don't know if it's going to be on YouTube, it's going to be a documentary. If it shows that there's institutional money coming in, that people are making money doing this, that will only serve to add more money. Someone else will watch this who happens to be a Darren Herman type, Bain Capital type, and they are together at a money dinner with Wall Street friends and say, hey guys, instead of putting our venture capital into XYZ, maybe we should siphon some of it off and put it into this asset class, because Ken Golden is showing you that it's a legitimate way of doing business. So I think it's a good thing. I think if it's done the right way, it's only a good thing.
In 2013, I was in crypto, and nobody was talking about crypto or Bitcoin or blockchain, any of that stuff. Now I went to a salsa night, a salsa class, And you meet people, you ask them, what do you do? And they say, I talk about sports cards, collectibles, alternative investments. And people literally respond, Cage, and this has happened maybe 20 times now. You do crypto? You do crypto? You got to teach me about crypto. I want to put money in crypto. And it's that famous statement, when you're a plumber, invest in Uber, it's a little bit late. But we're talking about it from an investment standpoint. From just a market standpoint, look at how much crypto has grown. It's good when people are talking about it. It's good when you get the everyday consumers involved. It's a big deal. Mbum Lee says, nice to meet you guys. Nice to meet you, Mbum. That was a great response. He liked your Curry Durant Luka response.
Thanks, Mbum.
I think he liked the little joke at the end there about Michael Porter Jr. Funny guy. Let's take a few questions from our Instagram live, from our YouTube live. Corey Lipinski. Oh, what are your thoughts on Stafford going to the Rams? Do you believe they have a team around him to have a decent shot at a title within the next few years? This is fun.
Stafford is a future Hall of Famer, according to people that know. So here's what's funny, right? So Stafford and Goff basically just swap places, right?
If Cage sees a joke, he'll beat it into the ground until it's turned into That Stafford joke was 2020.
I forget nothing. So don't cross me, people. I will never forget it. So the answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no. I never see Matthew Stafford leading a successful team. I just don't. I think he's a serviceable NFL quarterback, just the same way that Jared Goff would be. I think he is not an upgrade for that team at all. If anything, it's an even swap for Goff. I think Goff might have had some more upside. I mean, Stafford's not going to kill you. He's probably not going to lose you too many games, but I don't see him going out there and winning too many games. Plus, the Rams are getting him. He's already had some good years under him, and I think, the shelf life of an NFL quarterback is not that great unless you're Tom Brady. So no, I don't see them having. There's some good talent around. They get some good running backs, like Cam Akers, on that Rams team, and they have bolstered their defense recently. But no, with all the other teams in the NFC, barring some craziness, like you tell me that the Rams are going to trade for Julio Jones, I don't see the Rams doing much. They're also in a tough division.
You remember this trade that happened, I think, like 10 years ago? Jay Cutler was on the Broncos, went to the Bears.
Yep.
And Jay Cutler was like this middle-tier quarterback who threw like 30 touchdowns and like 20 interceptions. Mm-hmm. And people thought, he'd go to the Bears to change the scenery, but it never panned out. He made it to the playoffs, and Sean McVay is a very good coach, where he's had a lot of success for a young age. So there might be something there, but I'm with you. William Martin asks, with PSA reopening their grading soon, do you feel that turnaround times will improve with AI tech, or will it be back to the way it was from the past 8 to 10 months?
So I'll make a prediction about PSA. And, I will still be grading.
Look at the grin.
And I want to make sure we're clear here. I will still be grading with PSA, right? I think that I'm thrilled that there's so many different grading opportunities out there. Hell, I may even start grading some cards with Beckett. I got some autographs. Maybe I like that different autograph grade. I got some cards. Maybe I'll send to SGC. I got so many cards that I haven't sent somewhere that I'm gonna send. I got my cool cards. I'm sending to HGA when I get in on their lottery. But yeah. Here's my prediction for PSA, William. Pain. If anybody knows what movie that is, put it in the chat. All right? My prediction is Pain. You tell me where that is, get it in the chat, and you're going to make me smile. You make me happy. But my real prediction, and it is Pain, is they're going to open up, and they may have to close right back up again. Because legit, so many people are just sitting on their cards. Think of the products that have come out since they closed in March, right? Think of the Prism basketballs and the Prism UFCs. Think of the soccer releases that have come out. Think of all of the releases, the Topps baseballs. Just tons and tons of releases that people have not been able to send anywhere, right? Not to mention, you have people like me who I have boxes of Card Saver 1s in my basement filled with cards that I didn't get in because they closed before, right? So you think they've gotten influxes of cards. William Martin, Rocky 3, Clubber Lang, that's my man right there. I love it. Yes. My prediction, Pain. That's it. So
Do you
I
think
think
that some of this has to do with the fact that there's no real market for raw cards? So the only way to color up in the hobby, regardless of the grading fee, is to get a card graded, and PSA is the reputable grader.
yes, and I think PSA knows this, and I think that's why there are so many 8s and 9s coming back to people. Because I think part of the narrative that's going to be out there is maybe I don't send that basement full of cards to PSA because those were ones where I needed to get a certain number of 10s for it to make sense to send them. And now it looks like I'm only going to get, half of them 10s or 30% of them 10s, and I'm going to lose money. And that could potentially stem the tide for them. But people, it's been so successful buying raw, opening packs, putting them in a bulk PSA sub, sending them in for the value, getting them back however long it takes. So, and William, the second part of this question is, I love the messaging that we're getting from people. HGA put a great message out recently about anybody who has, if they didn't get their cards back, within the time frame, they can request a refund and they'll be charged the lower grading thing. Nat Turner came out and talked about how they have met their backlog. They've logged everything. Think about that. All right. So let's just think for a second. They closed in March. All right, and it took them 2 months. Not to get everything graded, all right? It took them 2 months just to log everything in. That's not clearing a backlog. I have cards I mailed them in June that I don't have, that are still in grading. No shot of like, not assembly, not QA 1 or 2. We're talking about things that are approaching a year from when they left my house and still sitting there, right? And I watch it. It's a value Collectors Club quarterly special. I watched that. The turnaround time, complete through day, has been August 9th. Go look, guys. Go look on PSA. It's been August 9th for a month. Maybe 3 weeks. I look every day. I log in every day to see if they've moved that from August 9th to August 10th. It's always August 9th. And mine was logged in August 15th. So you'd think 3 weeks ago, I'm like, okay, in 6 days, they'll be done with my thing. No, 3 weeks later, it's still August 9th. So, yeah, thank you, PSA, for making sure everything is logged in. Now, how about you grade some cards? And this goes for everybody. Right?
This goes for everybody. I'm gonna reel you back in.
Yep.
Gold. This is on the same token. Goldie Finger Cards asks, when PSA opens back up, do you think second-tier grading company slabs will hold value?
Yes, I definitely do. I think there's a place for everybody. I really do. And also, here's the fun, right? So I don't know what's going to happen with cards in the next couple years. If you asked me 3 years ago whether or not we would have had the boom on base cards that we had, I would have said you were nuts, right? But we did. So if you were to tell me in the next 3 years that there's going to be a move from base cards to on-card autos or RPAs or whatever it may be, that may be the next thing, right? The same thing happened in grading. All right. If you went back just a few years ago, we're talking about the middle of this last decade, 2014, 2013. There's a reason why so many Giannis Prism cards are in BGS holders, right? That's not that long ago, right? They're in BGS holders because everyone graded with BGS. And you go back before that, the reason why so many LeBron cards are in BGS holders is because BGS was where everybody graded. I graded there myself. 2009, 2010, 2011. I graded cards at BGS myself because that was the first place you looked, and that was the one that sold for the most. That was the resale one, and now it's PSA, and PSA's had their run. Perhaps, I don't know, and maybe somebody else will be the flavor. And it all depends on resales. It depends on customer service. Depends on everything going on right now. It is a difficult chore with the amount of demand there is out there. The appetite, I'm going to call it, for card grading for any of these companies to deliver on their promises. It really is. It's very difficult. You almost have to give them all passes because the amount of people who want cards graded and the amount of cards that people want to grade, it's it's amazing. Okay.
And the talent pool of graders available. There's no university you go to for grading cards. So you can't just put a posting on Indeed and say social media manager and get 1,000 applications in a few weeks. It's a very niche job. So hiring and scaling is very difficult. It's interesting. We have a lot of people in the hobby, and a lot of them are entrepreneurial in nature, but they're not able to look at the grading companies as they would be if they were running them. They're only able to look at them from a consumer standpoint. This is a good one, Cage. Cardboard Athletes asks, how did you and Andrew meet? Whose idea was it to start this podcast, and what's the story behind the beginning of this podcast?
So I'll take the first part, Cardboard Athletes. I'll let you know when we meet for the first time. And then we'll answer it. We'll tell you how we actually met. Because we have never been in the same room in person together. Can you believe that? 326 episodes in, 10 months plus doing podcasts. The chemistry here, it's like oil and vinegar. It's like salt and pepper. It's like Rocky and Adrian. I mean, I'm going to stick with the Rocky theme today, right? It's like green eggs and ham. The chemistry, you cannot find this chemistry in any other content out there in the hobby or otherwise. I don't know who Joe Rogan's partner is in his podcast, but whoever it is, he does not have the chemistry with that person that we have. Maybe the great Robin Quivers and Howard Stern, maybe after 20 years, had what this man and I have as far as chemistry. It is fantastic. And we've never been in the same room. And we may never be, because I think it just might mess up the chemistry. It just might mess it up. He can only see me from right here. He's gonna see this yoked up, swole guy and be like, oh geez, I don't know if I can keep doing this with this guy. Never meet
Charles,
heroes. Exactly. It's a great one.
Charles, who is that directed to though?
Oh, that's directed to me. That's directed to me. You are my hero. I make no bones about it. All right. I tell my kids when I grow up I want to be Andrew. And they know it. No, you can ask him right now. It's 100%. That is the deal. You are my hero. I can be your hero, baby. He sings it to me all the time. He puts me to sleep. It's great. He does his little Enrique Iglesias for me. So as to the rest of it, it is an amazing thing, right? Some of the greatest hobby content out there, and I'll give these guys their due, all started in one weird July week in an Instagram chat room where people just started bringing up, hey, we should have a podcast, right? You want to tell this story?
Do I want to tell the story?
If not, I'll continue to tell it.
Do
you have it somewhere? You have it written down somewhere? You have the transcript for our director's cut of our DVD? Is that what you got? Bonus track?
No, I was gonna end with serendipity. It's just like there's I don't know where this is in the Bible, but it's faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. And I think just sometimes serendipity in life happens.
All right, that's cool. Listen, we had a group of like 30 people, on Instagram, and people were like, we should do a podcast. And I said, I'll do a podcast. Who wants to do a podcast? And Andrew messaged me and says, hey, if you want to do a podcast, I'll do it. A couple of other people messaged me also. But here's what this guy did. The very next day, he gave me a link to Zoom and said, let's get on and chat. And one take, like very little editing, is our pilot episode, which you can still find. We didn't take it down. It's not as polished and fancy.
It's actually on my dad's birthday. I went back and listened to it. I was like, this is July 16th. This is my dad's birthday. I did this.
See, we recorded the pilot. We put it out the very next day. No real crazy editing, no nothing. And we did, I think, we did like 3 episodes we put out on the first day, July 17th. And we have not taken a day off since. We put out episode at least one every day, sometimes 2. So that's kind of how it started. The Card Talk guys met in the exact same, chat room, talk about putting a podcast together. So fun stuff. I'd love to give you like a better story, right? Like,
no, that's a great story.
At a baseball game, right? I stole the last hot dog off the hot dog cart, and he punched me in the nose, and we've been friends ever since. No, it's not nothing like that.
But what if we switched partners? Like the cadence could have been so different. That's what I mean by serendipity, right? Like, this is a good one. Marco Berry Cards. Marco Berry Cards has some funny memes. I'm not gonna lie. So go follow him, Marco Berry _cards. Cage laugh. If you could be half man and half animal, which animal would you choose? I guess the question is, which man would you choose? Just kidding.
No, I'm going to be man on top and horse on the bottom for obvious reasons.
I'm going to be man on top and a jaguar on the bottom.
A jaguar? Like like the car? I'm trying to think really what I would be.
A jaguar like a big strong cat.
You wouldn't want to be You wouldn't want to be a motor, like half man on top, half motorcycle on the bottom, like the Geico commercials. These are Marco Barry. Good for you, man. I mean, like, I don't know where you come up with this stuff, but it gets you thinking, like why? What kind of animal on the bottom? And I think maybe I'd want to be like a man on top and half podcast panther on the bottom. What do you think of that? Maybe no, not podcast panther. No, not No, it's not worth the Ethereum. No, don't go there. Okay,
what is it? How do you live, man? I don't understand.
I live my best life.
Game Boys in the Hood said you look like John Cena in your caricature.
Wait, thanks. Game Boys in the Hood, you got to put in the comments because you said something on Twitter, and it must have been in response to something we were talking about or something you did, right? Half man has desk, right? It could be. It's very true. It could be half desk. So you put something in there, and he I guess he tagged Sports Card Investor Jeff, and Jeff responded, and he was like, "Yeah, go to a card show." And I disagree to whatever you wrote, Game Boys in the Hood. Like, I disagree, and go to a card show and you'll see. And I wrote back, I'm like, I don't know whether I'm supposed to be mad at you or not. I don't know if I'm supposed to be defending Game Boys in the Hood here, but I'd love to get into some smoke with you here, Jeff. I'd love to get into a Twitter beef because that would be fun. It's what the fans want to see. And he wrote back, tell me he doesn't want to get into beef with me, and he, all the things that he likes, and it's fun. But I don't know what started at Game Boys in the Hood. So if you could tell us what started this, that would be great. Because I don't know if I'm supposed to be mad or happy or a little bit of both. Anyway. What else we got while he's typing?
What else we got? Okay, here we go. This is going to be... Actually, let's start with this one. So this is a comment I saw on Twitter from Putnam Cards, and I think you're going to really like this. He said, not that anyone asks, but let's just settle a debate. 2012 Prism Golds are the closest thing to this generation's PMG, precious metal gems. There are currently no serious other candidates.
I'm gonna say
real quick. I think the statement or the topic in and of itself, given Cage's reaction, is already cool. It's already thought provoking.
Yes, so I like it. So I could say yes and no, but the no part's gonna be tough because I would have to think for a second about what would be more like PMG than the gold. And the reason why first blush I say no is because precious metals were an insert in the metal products, right? They were not a base parallel, right? So the Prism 2012 golds are simply a parallel of the base card, just like a silver is, just like, and now you have 1,000 different variants of it. And you didn't really have that many then. As far as like pop, chaseability, cultural relevance and whatnot, sure. As far as look, not 100% sure. I would go with that. There are people who might argue that like the early kabooms might be PMG worthy because they're inserts, they're low pop, and they're more like art style, the way that the PMGs are. And I know there are a lot of people out there who go crazy for those kaboom cards. They've gotten a little more mainstream and a little more heavily produced now. That never really happened to the PMGs. PMGs remained, low pop and numbered. I like the comparison because of the collectability of it. I don't think they're the same type of card. You know what I mean? Like one's an insert and one's a parallel. So that's the only difference. If you give me a little bit of time to think, I probably could come up with other like that kaboom type.
Kabooms are this generation's precious metal gems. Let's keep it moving.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I don't really love kabooms. I do like precious metal gems. I don't really like kabooms, but to me, they're a little more like PMGs.
Cage, this is where I'm going to earn my money. This is questions from Cardfather. This is like a paragraph, and I don't do a good job reading.
Nice.
So this is the Cardfather 13. Why does it take so much? And this is going to be a good question, guys, so stay with me, please. Why does it take so much to get back in hobby favor for young players once they lose juice? For example, Baker Mayfield was the guy. Then he had a sophomore slump, and everyone was out of him, even though in 2020 he was a top 5 statistical quarterback and was a play away from the 2020 AFC Championship. People want to say they know what Baker is. Let's compare that to what people were saying about Trey this year when his cards were dropping. He was at a hobby favorite, but now with a few big performances, he's back in the limelight. Basic question: why are people so? Basically, my question is: why are people so basic? Are people just sheep following the herd without original thoughts, even when people pass the eye test, or do you really have to ride the wave when you're playing the short-term flipping game?
Nice. The best question we've ever had. I mean, the longest question we've ever had, but still an awesome question. Right. So, and I'm wordy, so you are a kindred spirit. And guys, really,
I did pretty good. No,
it's
I did
an
pretty good
amazing
job reading
question.
it.
It's an
I
amazing
did pretty
question.
good.
You did a great job reading it, presenting it. You did a very good job. So, but here is the answer. It's a huge lesson to learn for people who are in this hobby, right? Momentum, right? I'm going to make hats that say momentum, right? Cardboard relevance is my thing. Momentum is my thing. And I've talked about this a million times, right? Momentum is something that builds. It builds over time. It snowballs. Andrew did a whole episode early on about the snowball effect, right, on cards, right?
Which, by the way, real quick shout out to William Martin, who's in the chat here. He's actually going through, and it's probably a little bit delayed with PSA, of doing like actually a case study for that snowball effect. So I just wanted to give a shout out.
Yep. So momentum is a huge thing in the hobby. It's a huge thing in a lot of things, but the hobby and the players specifically, right? If things continue to go well, you can see something that builds in a straight line up, right? You can continue to go. No failure in there at all, right? And you could say this was right now the case with Luka. You could say it's right now the case with Giannis potentially. Let's see what he does now. As long as Luka has a good rookie year, then he builds on it and makes the playoffs in his second, and then now he actually wins a playoff series in the third, and then he goes to the Western Conference Finals in the fourth. That's a steady upward trend. That's momentum building and continuing to build. And with that, if you don't take outside market factors into account, that's a card, a person who can have continued and sustained upward growth, right? Once you get negative, and Baker Mayfield's a great example. And guys, go back and listen to me before this football season. I was all over Baker Mayfield. And if you bought any of the Baker Mayfield cards that I was saying to buy, you made a ton of money. Not because he went back to what he was, because he may never get back to what he was. Because this is the difference between investing in guys who've already done it and guys who may do it, right? This is the Michael Porter Jr. potential MVP. This is the difference in that question between Durant, Curry, and Luka, and why in my portfolio I'd have Luka the least, right? Because those are the guys who haven't done it. And what's worse is he may still do it, but the market will punish those players, that level of player, if there's a hiccup on their way to doing it. Baker Mayfield may eventually pan out to the player people thought he was going to be when he first came into the league. He may win a Super Bowl or two. He may win an MVP. Who knows? That may happen, right? But he didn't come in and go straight there a la Patrick Mahomes, right? That's why Mahomes cards just do the straight up, because momentum, great. Compare him to Lamar Jackson, who started off great and had a little bit of a hiccup. Lamar Jackson, he's a buy going into this year. Nice little sneaky play for you guys to give you a heads up. Start looking at his stuff now, right? Because he's a talent. Team's great. Team's always great. He's been beaten up, and he doesn't have to go straight back up, right? Because he's been beaten up, it's going to potentially go back up a little bit. He's also younger than Joe Burrow. Shh. Little sneaky Lamar Jackson play. Momentum, guys. Once you lose it in this hobby, it's very difficult to put that train back on the tracks, right? It's an important lesson for everyone here to learn, right? Trey, sure. Trey is looking amazing in the playoffs. He's doing great, right? He's looking like what everybody thought he was going to be. If you went back a year and a half ago and watched Trey's cards going up and didn't show anybody what happened in last year bubble, missing the playoffs, and just showed this year's playoffs to those people who are invested in Trey, they'd be like, all right, I'm hanging on to every Trey in the world. Look what he's doing. He's scoring mega points in the playoffs. He's got his team primed to maybe advance out of the first round of the playoffs. Great stuff. But you can't ignore what happened there. You can't ignore that those silvers went from 4,000 to 1,500 because people went off the Trey bandwagon. He lost a little momentum in the beginning of the season. He didn't have that steady climb. Now, if people believed in Trey, then the middle of this season when he was getting beat up was the time to buy him, right? We talked about the same thing. Ja was the time to buy him. Not because you think he's going to go right back to where it was, but to make money on a card like that, you don't have to. He's just got to start that momentum back up. But yeah, guys, the only way to explain this momentum in the hobby and the whole deal is people in this hobby are fickle, right? And they're more fickle because such a huge amount of the recent influx of money and hobby participants are in that base, high pop, PSA 10, Prism, you name it. Now, Baker Mayfield, National Treasure RPAs, they probably came down, right? His other rookie patch auto cards probably came down. But I'll bet you if you did a little bit of a case study on this, those probably didn't come down in the same percentage that his base prisms came down, right? So that's the difference, right? But most people who are investing in folks like this, they're investing in that high pop stuff. And when you're in that high pop stuff, the demand has to be at peak for that stuff to continue to go up. You can't have anybody jump off the momentum bandwagon. You need constant momentum for that stuff. It makes it very hard to keep that train rolling. Make
Can I
sense?
ask you something real quick? It does.
Yeah, please.
So I just went on Facebook and I saw the not the select court side, the basic select the select base PSA 10s. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So there's a comment. Select is catching up to Prism, and there's two photos. There was Prism PSA 10s of Trey Young, which I think are about 350, and then you had the select PSA 10s of Trey Young at 300 each. Do you see that continuing?
No.
Select catching Prism?
No, I don't.
You're not a select guy.
No, because I've been in this long enough to see enough of those things where somebody has been buying Select or somebody has been buying Optic or somebody has been buying some other version. People thought Mosaic was going to do it. You name it. It's not. Ultimately, the investment card is Prism. It has the track record. It's been around for the longest time, for these guys. The demand. So here's why, right? Select will be a cool card. Maybe for long-term investment for people who are in the know, for courtside and that kind of stuff. Those will be the low pop cool cards for people, over time. But you ran into someone in salsa dancing last night, right? There's a million yous running into a million people at their salsa classes, right? And most are not as savvy as you are, right? Most are people who also have made money over the last year, 2 or 3. And when their friend, their cousin, their whoever it is approaches them and says, "What should I do? I love Giannis. I love Dame Lillard. I love Luka," right? Those people, the advice they give them is, if you want to buy stock in someone, buy the Prism PSA 10. That's just what's going to be said. And if that's what's said to people, that's where the demand will be. That's where people who are getting in are going. Very rarely is the advice to someone new to the hobby coming in who wants to put their money in someone to start off, to wet their beak, Dan Fanucci. It's going to be Prism PSA 10. Very rarely is going to be Select. Very rarely is someone going to explain to Cousin Larry why the Optic Hollow is the way to go because it's condition sensitive and it's a nicer looking card and the pop is lower. That's just a little too confusing for Cousin Larry. He's just going to not invest in this and go buy some shit coin instead.
That was well said. People forget the hiccups the all-time greats had.
Not me, Charles. I mean, Michael Jordan played baseball and played it terribly for quite some time, right in the prime of his career. But yes,
Mike,
when people forget it, right? Gold kaboom. Yeah. So when people forget it is when after they have those hiccups, they move right back up. So America, and I'll say the rest of the world, but I know America, we love to tear down someone who's high, but the only thing we love more is to watch them build themselves back up, like Martha Stewart. That's what we love. PMG, what about Gold Kaboom is a good one. I mean, it's a good one because it's limited. But even not gold, like even the regular Kabooms from like the 2013s, 2014s, those animated ones, there's not a lot of those in high grade. So even those I'd put up there. I could come up with other ones. Stained glass is a cool one that people don't realize He's even out there, and it's a really cool looking, art style.
The Giannis rookie stained class is a cool card.
Yeah. So, I mean, and guys, like what you like, collect what you like. I do believe in that, and I do believe ultimately that will win the day. I mean, the people who bought the precious metal gems, yeah, they were rare, they were awesome, you name it, but people liked them because that was a cool card. It's an art card. Never really, they think he's going to be millions of dollars in cards. I mean, I happen to like jambalaya. That's my thing, right? And I was buying those for $100, when I got back into the hobby of good guys. I think that's a cool looking card, passed on a Kobe like an idiot, but
tell me what you think when you hear this. Stood the test of time.
If you're talking about cards or assets or investments, it's basically something that is fluctuation proof. Is what I think when you say stood the test of time. It's something that has weathered ups and downs and has come out on the other side of it, right? There are many assets that don't stand the test of time. That make sense?
Not only does it make sense, I asked that question for a really specific reason. Because can Kaboom be PMG? Yes. But the big difference between PMG and Kaboom is Kaboom hasn't stood the test of time. Or if I will rephrase that, PMG has stood the test of time.
Yeah.
PMGs had value when the market was really high. They had value when no one was in the market. And that is, I think, something that we need to look at a lot in 2021 is during this down market, there's going to be that separation that you just mentioned. Some cards won't ignore.
One of the coolest things about PMG, really, and why it's hard to replicate it, it's one of the first numbered insert cards when they weren't numbering individual cards back in the 90s. There's not a lot of numbered cards. So because they're numbered, you know how many of them are out there, the condition doesn't create the scarcity. They're already scarce. And they're one of the few card sets that I can think of that people will spend exorbitant amounts of money, even if the condition is not so good. You don't need to be getting a PSA 10. You buy a Kaboom, you want a PSA 10 of the Kaboom. You want a stained glass, you want to buy a PSA 10. Jambalaya, you want a PSA 10, right? PMGs, I've seen authentics go for six figures for the right player. There are their 10s are like unheard of because it's a condition sensitive card anyway. But because they're numbered, that adds that additional layer of scarcity to it.
It was a Saturday. It felt like I was pushing a rock up a wall. I got my workout in. I got a little salsa dance class in, a little practice. I had some fun with friends, swam in the pool. And now, last question to finish off a legendary Caulfield Cage. Guys, I'm tired. I was tired today, but when I jump on the live and I see the comments, I see people go back and forth. I don't know if it does this for you. It gives me a little bit of energy. So I appreciate it, man. I really do, guys. So CD Cards asks, with the recent dip, do you think there are still some untapped business markets in the card hobby outside of submissions, consignment, and all of the other usual suspects? Thanks, Chris. No, thank you, Chris, man. We see you comment all the time. You're really active in the groups. We appreciate you. CD Cards.
So untapped business as in like somebody vendor, like, not the person who's panning for gold, somebody who's out there with the axes and that kind of stuff,
Yep.
like another business. Oh, I'm sure there are businesses that are going to come out now. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I said this yesterday, but I'll say this today. There needs to be an account on the hobby that's similar to Lamim James, but tells all the positive stories, all of the really cool stories of the hobby. Grandma found or a son and daughter found a collection in the attic. Someone, turned a collection and paid off their credit card or student loans. An account, a website, something like that, podcast that talks about all of the good in the hobby. That's mine.
I'll tell you what I'm looking for, right? Not one that's going to be used by a big company. And hey, maybe this is a multi-million-dollar idea, and somebody out there is gonna take this because I don't have the ability to do it. Just I don't have the tech savvy to do this anyway. But
I don't have the technology nor the steady hand to perform a procedure like that.
Exactly. Look at who's gonna put in the comments where that's from. Let's not ruin it.
They have to know. This is a 2000s movie. This is a 2000s.
Let's put it in the comments. We'll give some credit where credit's due if they know a movie. But here you go. You ready? PSA.
You don't have the technology nor the steady hand to perform a procedure
hand
like that.
Oh, I want to see who guesses this. You're a big smile for somebody who guesses this. So here you go. I'll speak while somebody guesses the quote. So PSA just bought that Gemma Mint company, right? I don't know how to say it, but I don't know exactly what they do, but I imagine it's going to make it easier for them to grade and, computerized catalog, the whole deal. So I've seen these like little tools where people put on the card like a centering tool and blah, 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 the whole deal. If I had the ability and the funds behind it, I would create a grading app, a self-grading app that people can use for their own cards. You take your cell phone, use your camera, like a QR code, you put it over the card, and it will layer on a centering thing, and it will show, okay, this one's a little off center to the left, this one's 55-45, and it already has the announced grading requirements for all the grading companies and can spit out for you what the grade likely would be based on the computer stuff. Now, obviously, it's not going to be guaranteed because, the Surface, the whole deal, these guys are using, a myriad of scanners. But just from the, your scanning view with your iPhone 12 with the 14 cameras that it has on it now, right? To be able to just look at like the centering, the edges, the corners, you name it, a rudimentary view and say, okay, here you go. This one's off center. I think something like that would be very, very valuable for people because people don't do a very good job of like pre-grading their cards. It's almost like, people who are trying to make like raw card review. Like you could have a raw card review app on your phone. And, again, you have to really be holding the card to do it. So, the value of it would be just that initial, centering and stuff like that. But I think that's one good idea. If you gave me enough time, I could probably come up with 50 of those. But just the first one that came to my mind.
Hey, yo, Rhino, you're absolutely right. McLovin from Superbad. That's another episode. Thank you guys. Have an amazing weekend. Have an amazing long weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Shout out to all of our fans in Australia. I know Charles Logan is from Australia. Cage is an international sensation there. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.